Welcome back to the Midwest Blerd Podcast, where we celebrate nerd culture with that authentic Midwest perspective. I'm your host, Marcus, and before we jump in, make sure you follow the show on social media. At YouTube, you can find us at The Midwest Blerd. On Instagram and X, you can find us at Midwest Blerd. We've got a packed episode today, although I expect it to be a shorter episode unless I decide to go on long soliloquies, which I want to do. But today's episode includes my review of the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer and episodes 5 through 7 of Starfleet Academy. But first, let's get into the news with Nerd News Now. We're starting off in a galaxy far, far away. The full trailer for The Mandalorian and Grogu dropped, and it is loaded with Filoni-style world building, returning animated series characters and a surprisingly emotional tone. Now, I know that we got a little teaser at the Super Bowl, and it broke the internet. The Star Wars community went to war with itself, as it normally does. But with a lot of people saying, what was this, blah, blah, blah. And then Filoni had to come out and say, it wasn't Dave Filoni. It was Jon Favreau had to come out and say, listen, we just made this to be a spoof off the Clydesdales, which I think everybody got, or they should have gotten. This wasn't a scene from the movie, but people hated it because they wanted to see footage from the movie. So they delivered footage from the movie, and it was incredible, but won't get into my review right now. We'll finish up the news, and then I'll get into my review a little bit later. But the confirmed cast includes Pedro Pascal, Sigourney Weaver, and Jeremy Allen White. The movie lands on May 22nd, 2026. Now, from hyperspace to warp speed, Star Trek, really the only thing going on in Star Trek right now is Starfleet Academy with episodes 5 through 7, which I will break down and review later on in the show. And finally, the gaming world had a major shakeup. Phil Spencer has officially retired after nearly 40 years at Microsoft. The new CEO of Microsoft Gaming is Asha Sharman, who laid out her vision in 3 pillars. Pillar 1, great games. Okay, I agree with that, thank you. Pillar number 2, return of Xbox. And pillar number 3, no tolerance for bad AI. And I gotta tell you, I am encouraged by this news because I have an Xbox Series S and I never play it. I never use it. I mean, it's the latest in their gaming consoles and I don't use it because I got a PS5 and I play that all the time. If I'm going to do some gaming, I'm going to do it on that. I need for the Xbox to give me a reason to come back because I've got your hardware. Give me a reason to come back and buy your software. And no tolerance for bad AI. If we were friends in my personal life, you would know that I talk about AI all the time. It's the future. It's inevitable. Get on board. I'm glad, though, that they are going to set a tolerance for no bad AI, but they're not saying no AI because I know creative people are going up in arms. And to them, I would say learn how to use AI because it's happening. It's inevitable. It is going to flood your field with a lot of people that might not have the technical expertise, but might have a spark of the creative in them. And it's going to open up. It's going to open things up to a much wider group of people. And I think ultimately that will be a good thing. I think ultimately we will get better stories. We will get more stories. We will get more immersive stories. I think it'll be great. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Asha does with Microsoft. Okay, next, moving on to what is my favorite segment, Heartland Heroes. And this week we are spotlighting Hero House in Fountain Square, Indianapolis. Hero House is located 1112 Prospect Street in Fountain Square. It's a true Midwest comic shop. It's warm, it's welcoming, and community-driven. They support local creators, host events, and maintain a space where new fans and longtime collectors feel right at home. This is the kind of place that keeps Midwest nerd culture thriving. So I salute Hero House. And I got to tell you, this is my neighborhood comic book shop. I live in Fountain Square in Indianapolis, Indiana, and it is incredible. It's exactly what you want. You walk into that comic book shop, it smells like old comic books. I mean, it brings me back to my childhood comic book shop days. So please, if you're in the Indianapolis area, check out Hero House Comics, then check out Downtown Comics on the Circle as well. You might as well check out both. Both great places. All right, now let's talk about what we watched this week in reviews and reactions. The Mandalorian and Grogu trailer. I told you I was going to react to it, and I will react to it now with one word. Amazing. I absolutely loved it. I saw Zeb. I saw Din being old school season 1 Din. I think we remember, what was it? The episode, The Sin, where he goes and just wrecks shop on an entire Imperial base. We see that Din again, but this time it's on a cinematic scale. So for everyone that was complaining, like, oh, it's going to be a TV show in the movie, you can now shut up, because this definitely looked cinematic to me. The action looked like they had kicked things up a notch. The effects looked incredible. Just seeing Grogu being much more mobile than we've seen him be in the past. And actually, like, will we see him talk? I think we saw him say yes in the trailer, didn't we not? I thought so. Will we see him talk now? I think that's not too much to ask. I'm still holding out for a lightsaber. Listen, I think it was recently Jon Favreau came out and told us, revealed to us, that Grogu actually spent 2 years with Luke. Now, I know that we all saw, we saw the rescue, which is my favorite Star Wars moment of all time. Absolutely incredible. Incredible. Luke Skywalker's my favorite Jedi, and that was my favorite Luke Skywalker scene. So yes, it's my favorite Star Wars scene of all time. We all saw that, and then if you watch Book of Boba Fett, it seemed like he was with Luke for a week. But no, actually, Jon Favreau came out and said that he was with, I think it was Jon Favreau, or it was Dave Filoni. It was someone that knows what they're talking about. Came out and said that he was with Luke for 2 years. So I expect to see a lot more Jedi stuff. And I'm sorry. Yes, I'm talking about Jedi with Star Wars. I'm sorry that I like the Star Wars part of Star Wars. Please excuse me for liking it. Pardon me, Tony Gilroy. I like the Star Wars part of Star Wars. But I think it's possible we see him meditating in the Force. What else are we going to see? I'm very much looking forward to this movie. We are only a few months away. I am very, very excited. In Star Trek, Starfleet Academy, episodes 5 through 7. Okay. I need to take a moment and admit something. I thought this was going to be a podcasting crisis. I was in crisis after episode 5. I'm just going to be honest with you. Series Acclimation Mill. I did not like this episode at all. And that's me being at my most generous. I just did not. And I know there's been a lot of talk about woke Trek. I've heard that a lot. Star Trek's going too woke. And with Starfleet Academy, I've been pushing back on it. But I will admit that I fully thought Discovery got way too woke. In fact, at one point, it became unwatchable for me. I thought it was so woke. But I was having a conversation with a friend of mine that means a lot to me this past weekend, and I realized that not everybody's using the word woke the same way. So I decided that I'm just going to, this isn't a political podcast, but I am going to define, when I say woke, what I mean by woke. And what I mean by that is no consistent, coherent, philosophical or moral standard behind whatever view you're taking in the moment. And what I would say, most wokeness occurs just in the moment. And there really is no limit to wokeness, because to anyone that considers themselves woke, you'll never be woke enough. Hence the no standard at all. And let me give you a practical example of this. And I'll use a political situation just to give context so that everybody knows what I'm talking about. We've all seen the sign, Queers for Palestine. That is a perfect example of something that I would call woke. Now, how is that woke? Well, if you had in your mind an idea of how humanity should operate, how human beings should operate amongst each other to create a harmonious society, then Queers for Palestine could not exist. Those would not be two groups of people that thought either group was even close to their idea of what humanity should be. Queers for Palestine happens when you look at the world in a very temporal context based off of a power struggle, which isn't a philosophy or ideology. That is a temporal, very basic decision making. And the conversation I was having with my friend, they were like, well, we were talking about what was going on in Gaza. And they were like, well, the Israelis are so much more powerful than the Palestinians. And that's why we've got to stand up for Palestine. And I was like, okay, if that's your reason, well, then in World War II, the United States was much more powerful than Germany, especially at the end of the war. But the Nazis were still the bad guys. And even though Berlin was getting bombed, and I'm sure there was a humanitarian crisis going on, the Nazis were still the bad guys. So when I'm talking about wokeness in movies and in television, what I mean is you are just taking whatever issue is current and you're jumping on whatever the least powerful or what you define as marginalized or what you see as this is not the established or old way, this is something new. And so we're just going to throw this in to try to show how new and edgy and progressive we are. That's being woke. Now, if there is a reason for it, if there is a plot reason, then that's not woke. And Star Trek has been brilliant at that. Brilliant at talking about social issues, but talking about them from a morally consistent way. Questioning what should humanity be in the future? How should we make these decisions? What are the decisions that will be made? Questions about racism, questions about sexism, questions about gender, questions about, you can ask all of these questions through a plot-driven way to make people ask themselves where they stand on these issues. Actually, I'll give you an example. I think Seth MacFarlane is personally a bozo of a person, but in Family Guy, I miss when it was funny. But the Orville, some of those episodes were incredible Star Trek. And I wish Paramount would consult him on Star Trek episodes. They did one where they have a culture that's all male and they produce babies. They have it was a long time ago, but I think they have these eggs and both men can fertilize I don't know, something like that. But their species, millennia ago had females and males, like everybody evolves, but they evolved away from females and now they just have males. But when people are born female, they convert them genetically and physically to male in order to fit into the society. Incredible episode that brought so many questions from so many different areas. Perfect, not woke, perfect way to ask ourselves present day questions through a creative medium. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. But there were times in Discovery when it was just woke. It was just, hey, here are these people. Look at them. Oh, does this make you uncomfortable? Oh, look at this. And it's like, no, it's just, what's the point? Why are they there? And Starfleet Academy has been accused of being woke, and I've been defending it, saying, no, it's not woke. People saying, oh, well, why would you have an overweight person in the future? That's DEI. Not to mention that pretty much every person I saw making that criticism was overweight. Nevertheless, oh, why would you? Okay, yes, you could have overweight people in the future. In fact, I don't even have to go far to imagine how that could happen, right? That's an easy thing it's so easy that we shouldn't even have to have the discussion, especially after Kirk had glasses, okay? Geordi was wearing a visor, all right? And they had cloning technology for forever. So please, they were making artificial hearts. He couldn't have an artificial eye. There was an entire data. He couldn't have artificial eyes. Come on. Star Trek, we don't need everything to be perfect, okay? But I do need things to make sense. I need things to make either they're going to make sense on their face, or you need to explain how it makes sense, why this is part of the world, why this is part of the society. If you're going to bring something new in, you need to explain it. And when we first saw, the Klingons, and his family was in that, what do they call it, a triad relationship. Okay, I was like, okay, what do we know about these Klingons? Well, we know that there aren't that many of them anymore. And I remember that scene, I think it was episode 4, where all the Klingons come warping in, and then that Klingon theme starts, dun-dun, dun-dun, dun-dun. Whew. I still get goosebumps thinking about it. But we learned from that scene that Klingons ain't what they used to be. There are not nearly as many Klingons. They are not the colonizing, threatening everybody else people that they used to be. Okay? Now, that episode showed us that they've still kept their conquering aspect to their culture. They still consider themselves warriors, conquerors. We saw that. When we saw the triad relationship, they didn't really explain it, but I didn't think it was woke. And this is why. Because we do know that the Klingons, there are a few of them. It is not a difficult headcanon jump to make to say, well, what if it's like we see in nature, where there will be a few females, lots of males try to impregnate the females because they're trying to make they're trying to make their best chance of being able to grow and their best chance of having the strongest genetic whatever passed along. Okay, that did not take me long to understand how that could exist that way. Aren't that many females? There are a bunch of males. And honestly, it fits, because another thing we kind of know about Klingons is they're not very sexual. The only thing we really know about them sexually is that their sex is very violent. We do know that. But outside of mating in its most primal form, we don't really, hear about Klingon sexual preferences, or, Klingon kinks or something we don't hear. There is nothing about that anywhere in Klingon culture. We know that about humans. We know that about actually lots of different alien races. So it would lead you to believe that that's just not an aspect of Klingon culture that's that huge. Sexualizing, having all kinds of sex for pleasure, it doesn't really seem to be what Klingons do. What Klingons seem to do for pleasure is fight. That seems to be the equivalent and kind of the juxtaposition that they're played against humans with. It's the counterpoint to human frivolity is Klingons get that through combat. So when they showed the Klingon character being gay, I was like, all right, well, in a present context, of course, there's nothing abnormal about that at all, right? And no matter what you want to say, if these shows are written about the future, they're still written in the present. So I could completely understand that. When they put him in a skirt, okay. This is a black nerd. This Blerd stands for black nerd, because I am a black nerd. This podcast is not a racially based podcast. It's just defining me, my characteristics. But as a black man, I will say this, and this is me, but Cat Williams he did an interview, I think, with Shannon Sharpe on Nightcap. And he talked about how Hollywood loves putting black men in dresses, and how in order for you to be famous, you have to wear a dress if you're a black man. Part of a larger conversation, actually, that has been happening about just the feminization of black men in popular media. And he's the only black male character we really have on this show. And they keep putting him in dresses. And he's a Klingon that they keep putting in dresses. We have no history of Klingon men wearing dresses. We don't. There's not even one reference. You gotta tell me why this is happening. You gotta tell me why you're putting him in a dress so much. honestly, it would have been cool. And I get he's a healer, but does him being a healer mean that he has to also be a cross-dressing homosexual? Like, is that what that means? I don't get that that's what that has to mean. I actually personally think it would be cooler if everything about him was Klingon as we would expect, except he wants to be a healer, and they can't accept that. That's a huge problem. I think that would bring up a lot more questions than trying to shoehorn in all of this into one character that just feels, frankly, unnatural. It feels woke. It feels woke. And episode 5 luxuriated itself in the wokeness, and I absolutely hated it. And if episode 6 had been the same, I would not have a review for episode 7 because I would not have been able to take it. And listen, let me be clear. Even when there is an episode I don't like, every series that I love has episodes I don't like, every single one. And honestly, please keep creating episodes. Do not let this discourage you at all. Keep going. Keep trying things. If you've got something in your heart, write it. Keep going. I am just glad that we keep getting more Star Trek. I'm glad when I keep getting more of the things that I love, even if it's something that I don't even like. Guess what? I'll be back next week. Now, if you keep smacking me in the face with things I don't like, you know what? This might not be the series for me. When you come out with a new series, I'm going to check it out, right? Because these are the stories that I love. Episode 5 was a hard watch for me, but I'll just read the synopsis real quick. My episode is a coming-of-age story with deep franchise roots. Sam digs into the long-standing mystery of what happened to Captain Benjamin Sisko, tying her own journey as a photonic life form, an emissary to his legacy. It's packed with Deep Space Nine callbacks, including a powerful spoken word coda from Avery Brooks and an appearance by Sirach Lofton as an adult Jake Sisko. The heart of the episode is Sam trying to understand her purpose, her people, and how to carry a mantle she never asked for. Now, I loved the Deep Space Nine callbacks. I did. I loved hearing Avery Brooks' voice. I wish he had wanted to be involved. I understand he retired from acting, retired from everything. I respect people that set strong boundaries. Good for him. But as a fan, would I love for him to still be involved in Star Trek? Of course I would. Of course I would. In fact, he's a strong black male character. We don't have a lot of them in Star Trek. So of course I would like to see him involved. They didn't put him in a dress, right? I would like to see him involved. But seeing the actor that played his son come and talk about him, definitely my member berries just felt warm and fuzzy. I loved it. The Deep Space Nine theme. Oh my goodness. So I don't think it would be a complete shock to know that I was in the marching band. I played trombone, and I got to tell you, I was in, I think it was all-state band maybe, or some sort of like orchestra. And we played Deep Space Nine. It was my favorite out of all the Star Trek themes to play, starting with that trumpet, and then the rest of the orchestra comes in. Oh, beautiful. One of my favorite scenes in Lower Decks is how they keep circling around Deep Space Nine and playing that theme again. Loved it. But so yeah, I loved all that parts of this episode. I really thought they wasted the Benjamin Sisko story. Loved seeing Tawny Newsome. She is Star Trek royalty at this point to me, but thought they wasted the Sisko part. I thought they really could have delved into what is the reality behind the mysticism, because I feel like Star Trek has the opportunity to not separate the two. We can learn, right? Like original Star Trek, they meet Zeus, they meet Olympians, right? Like that's cool Star Trek to me when you close that gap between the myth and what's knowable. And they could have really given us more, but they decided not to. And instead they gave us just a bunch of stuff that I was not interested in at all. But then they saved us with episode 6. Quick synopsis. Episode 6 is a harrowing, high-stakes bottle episode that turns a training mission into a tragedy. The cadets are trapped aboard the derelict USS Miyazaki. held hostage by the Furies, cannibalistic hybrids with a brutal history. Captain Aki and Admiral Vance bring in Nus Braka, played incredibly by Paul Giamatti, as a desperate Hail Mary only for his true agenda to unfold in devastating fashion. The episode ends with real loss and trauma for the cadets in Starfleet, raising the emotional and moral stakes for the rest of the season. I loved this episode. First of all, Paul Giamatti. Every time he's cast, it's incredible casting. He chews up every second he's on camera. You can't stop watching him. He is absolutely amazing. And his character, talk about just an incredibly well-written, well-executed villain. You hate him. You just hate him. And he's not like mustache twirly. He's brilliant. And you hate him for it. And the Furies, so interesting. And honestly, this is something I hope they do more of. Show us kind of like what was going on during the burn and what were these different factions and how were they created. The Furies being human, alien hybrids. I want to know much more about this. I want to know why they're born in pain. I want to know how they're born. I want to know just so much more. How are they spacefaring? There's so much I want to know about their backstory. And I hope we kind of get more groups like this and more of their backstory in the future. And plus, the Miyazaki kind of like, I don't know if this is going to be a reoccurring theme. Like, oh, what is it? Oh my God, the Kobayashi Maru. I was going to have to turn in my Star Trek card if I didn't know that. But is it going to be like that for them? I don't know. They kind of like painted it like that a little bit. Loved the whole thing. Loved how the Starfleet Academy and the War College had to work together. I hope we see more of that. I think I've said that before. I hope we see more of them having to work together. I hope we finally see a merge at the end of this, because there shouldn't be two separate schools. It actually doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But loved all of that. And wow, the loss. I forget the character's name, but the Vulcan from the War College. That was a Star Trek death. Like a good one. Not like Tasha Yar, but a good one. That was good. And just, wow, the way that it was all resolved, her incredible powers. It's ripe for more storytelling, and I'm really glad that they did it. And really like seeing the crew of the ship have to be a Starfleet crew of a ship, I thought was really cool as well. And I hope we see more of that too. Then episode 7, Cosine. I'll read a quick synopsis, then I'll give you my thoughts about it. Episode 7 slows down after the chaos of episode 6, but not in ways that land. The cadets are scattered for All Worlds Day, a Federation holiday where everyone gets extended leave. We follow multiple different storylines. One is Caleb struggling with his own social skills and insecurities, in which we kind of get a little bit of a romantic moment, maybe between him and Sam, maybe. Another is Genesis and Darum getting rushed, uneven backstory focus. And then we have Sam heading off for a much-needed photonic tune-up to process her trauma. Character-focused episode that tries to give everyone space to breathe, but it can feel a bit like filler after the intensity of Come, Let's Away. Yeah, that was my written review. Just to add to that, and I got the characters, it wasn't Sam that he was having his little, Caleb was having his little moment with. It's just the, forget her name, but the character that's the Calica captain. This episode wasn't the weakest, wasn't the strongest. It was an episode, right? There were some cool parts. There were some parts I could have done without. I loved seeing the character development, really for almost all the characters. Again, though, they put the Klingon in a dress. It was a sparkly dress this time. And just, I could use a couple episodes break from that. But other than that, it was a decent Star Trek episode. You know what? In fact, it was one of those episodes that I know this. I should say I expect this to be true. It's one of those episodes where During it, you're like, okay, this is whatever. But really, it's those episodes that build those character pieces that in the end give you an episode like The Next Generation's All Good Things, right? So that when you see Picard sit down at the poker table, it hits you hard because you know what that means because you've watched years of these small character moments so that you feel like you really know these people. And I have to admit, coming out of this episode, there were a few characters that I felt like I knew a lot more about. Now, whether good or bad remains to be seen, but it definitely felt like I knew more about them. So all in all, I would say that episodes 6 and 7 redeemed and pulled me out of the hole that episode 5 put me in. So I was very glad to see that happen. And so now that's all we've got for episode 4. Very short episode today. If you're enjoying the show, please make sure to follow and subscribe again on YouTube. You can find us at the Midwest Blerd on Instagram and X. It's at Midwest Blerd. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Stay nerdy, stay kind, and stay Midwest strong. I'll see you next time.